Nous ne sommes pas partie prenante au conflit. Et donc, jamais la France ne prendra part à des opérations.
We are not party to the conflict, and therefore, France will never take part in operations to open or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
Not to totally forget what we learned from the Second World War and remain committed to cooperation. And this is also because of those principles that we have decided to join the mutual exercise in Greenland without threatening anyone, but just supporting an ally and another European country, Denmark. Having a place like Europe, which sometimes is too slow, for sure, and needs to be reformed, for sure.
Also tonight, there is an unfortunate subplot to the conflict in Iran. Apparently, Trump derangement syndrome is so bad on the left that the legacy media mob, Democrats, other so-called liberals, they are rooting for America to lose. These lunatics who constantly drape themselves in virtue are now rooting for a regime in Iran that murders protesters, throws gay people off of tall buildings, and tortures women to death if their hair is not completely covered in public and for other reasons. Don't take my word for it. You know, after it took just 2 weeks to completely destroy Iran's Navy, Air Force, air defenses, and degrade its missiles and drones by 90%. Well, here's how the media mob spun it over at ABC. Quote, even as Iran has been pummeled by Israeli and American airstrikes, with its military capabilities greatly diminished, Tehran continues to demonstrate resolve both in adapting and expanding its military tactics. Could they tell us who might be in charge of that? And here's Time magazine, quote, Trump may radicalize regime rather than topple it, according to the experts. Most of the radicals are now dead. Fake news, CNN, quote, 7 reasons why Trump hasn't won the Iran war. It barely started, and I don't even know if you'll call it a war, but a massacre. And, of course, the New York Times, who didn't seem to notice the historically high gas prices under Joe Biden, even getting as high as $5 a gallon, are now in panic mode. Quote, oil shock sends tremors through world economy. This really is the big one. And look at this headline. The United Nations has already declared that Iran's nuclear program will live on in perpetuity. It's been 3 weeks. Iran's government, their military, is gone, obliterated, in shambles. The so-called supreme leader can't or won't show his face in public. He's either dead, injured, or too afraid. One former Clinton official who never voted for Donald Trump and doesn't even support his policies put it this way. It is profoundly disturbing that a growing segment of the far left appears to be almost rooting for Hamas, Hezbollah, the Iranian regime, and other forces fundamentally opposed to the U.S. and our allies. This seems to reflect a corrosive strain of anti-Americanism dressed up in post-colonial theory that risks blinding us to the moral realities of our world and the nature of our adversaries.
Sure.
Hey, Sean,
what is our goal going in? We had in our hemisphere a regime operated by an indicted narco-trafficker that became a base of operation for virtually every competitor, adversary, and enemy in the world. It was, for Iran, their primary spot of operation in the Western Hemisphere was Venezuela. For Russia, their primary base of operation in the Western Hemisphere, along Cuba and Nicaragua, was Venezuela. In the case of China, China was receiving oil at a huge, about $20 a barrel discount. And they weren't even paying money for it. It was being used to pay down debt that they were owed. This is the oil of the people of Venezuela, and it was being given to the Chinese as barter at a 20%, at a $20 discount per barrel in some cases. And so you had basically 3 of our primary opponents in the world operating from our hemisphere from that spot.
U.S. President Donald Trump hosted Latin American leaders in Florida on Saturday to announce the formation of a military coalition against drug cartels.
The heart of our agreement is a commitment to using lethal military force to destroy the sinister cartels and terrorist networks once and for all. We'll get rid of them.
At least a dozen.
War in this context and in pursuit of peace is necessary.
Our military is the greatest in the world, with the greatest equipment and the greatest people in the world. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.
Our military is the greatest in the world, with the greatest equipment and the greatest people in the world. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.